How we doing, everybody? Another good Friday night. Um, go into a little NASCAR chat tonight to see where we are with part two of our series on NASCAR for beginners. So tonight we're going to be a little all over the place. We're going to do a little bit of some of the different drivers who's out there. Kind of ways to go about if you want to look for a driver you want to start following. And then we've got some questions that some people have sent me via text and different things. So we'll answer those and go through it to hopefully give y'all some more knowledge on the sport. So, before we get going, last week, a little quick recap. If you go back and watch NASCAR for Beginners Part 1, you'll see we went through like costs and the teams and types of cars and manufacturers and numbers of cars and all that good stuff. This one here is going to start breaking down more in depth. And as we get further, we're going to go more in depth. So with that being said, we're going to go into some of the best drivers in the sport right now. You've got to start with, in my opinion, Kyle Larson. He drives the number 5 car. Probably the best all-around race car driver in the world, to be honest. The guy drives everything. Sprint cars, stock cars, Indy cars, little sprint cars on the weekends and in the middle of the week. I mean, he races probably 5 days a week. Nicknamed is Young Money. Tons of videos and things out there on him. There's a series, I want to say it's on Netflix, called Dirt. Really good series. It follows dirt racing around the U.S. He actually owns the High Limit series, and it's dirt sprint cars. Pretty good little series out there. And then there's a new series that came out. I think it's on YouTube, could be on Netflix. I'm sure you can find it anywhere. But what it is it's some of the younger drivers, the up and comers, coming into NASCAR, like Carson Hocevar and Connor Zilisch, and there's a few others. But it's called Rising. Pretty good little show. Hello, Tiny Kid 2000. I see you in the chat down there. How's your evening going? So that's probably the main driver right now. Plus, Kyle Larson is the defending NASCAR Series champion. You also have somebody, William Byron drives the 24 car. He's a good story to follow up. He actually got into racing through iRacing on the computer. He's a good one. Those are two of the Hendrick drivers. Chase Elliott is NASCAR's most popular driver, has been for years. He's another good one to follow. He drives the number 9 car. Then you jump into my favorites. You've got Ryan Blaney. He's from Columbus, Ohio, or right outside of it. Drives the number 12. Does he drive a 12? Yeah, he drives a 12 car. I'm getting my numbers confused here. For Penske, he's sponsored by Menards. Then you've got Josh Berry, of course. I've mentioned him a couple of times. He's my driver, the number 21 car for the Wood Brothers. You've got Denny Hamlin, who is the driver everybody loves or hates. He's kind of like the New York Yankees of NASCAR. Then you go into, Chase Briscoe's out there, Christopher Bell. Both of those drive for Joe Gibbs Racing. You've got Bubba Wallace, is a really popular driver to a lot of people. He drives for Michael Jordan's race team. You've got Joey Logano's always in the top, 10. Chris Buescher, anybody that's from Texas, like myself, he's from just outside of Dallas. There's tons of drivers. The Joey Logano's got 3 NASCAR championships. Ryan Blaney has one. And then, of course, Kyle Larson won the last one. The one before it was Kyle Larson won this one. Last year was Joey Logano. The year before that was Ryan Blaney. And the year before that was Joey Logano. So they're a little, there's a little bit of difference out there. The best way to go about it is, most people have a car manufacturer they like the best. The three manufacturers, Chevrolet, Ford, and Toyota. So it depends on what manufacturer car you like. Then from there, it's a matter of just kind of watching races and see who you enjoy. Who's, most people are going to root for somebody who's obviously up near the front or winning races. But like my wife, before she got into it, she didn't know anything about them, and she picked Ryan Blaney as her driver because she liked the Menards car. That's just what she said. I like the Menards car. I like the paint scheme. When I first got into NASCAR, there was a car, the number 28 car, and it was a black car with a big orange Texaco star on the hood, and I just thought it was one of the coolest looking cars ever. And so I just got into the sport and started following him, and then that driver, and then just evolved as drivers retire. You look for other ones. The one thing about this sport is you can have more than one favorite driver. You don't have to have just one. It's not like if you're like a Yankees fan, you can't be a Red Sox fan. That's obvious. But in NASCAR, if your favorite driver, mine's Josh Berry, I still root for Ryan Blaney, or I root for anybody driving the Ford cars. So there's numerous different ways to go about how you find a driver. But like I said, most people latch on to somebody who's doing good because if you're going to root for somebody, you want them to be a winner. That's kind of the ways of the drivers go. You can find any kind of highlights you want on YouTube. If you search that driver and put Chase Elliott NASCAR, Ryan Blaney NASCAR, and it'll pop up all kinds of highlights that you can screen through and watch. Those are just some of the ways. I've missed a few people popping up in the chat. I see a few: George, also Brooks, Evil Larry, Fabian, Paul. I've seen, y'all, welcome to all y'all for watching and tuning in. If you got any questions, drop them in the comments and we'll get to them as quick as we can. I'm going to shoot back up here to the top, and what's up there? Level Up, Joe Moss down there. I see you too. We'll hit your question first since it's right here on the bottom of my screen. Asked, how many great drivers have there been from Ohio? I'd really have to go look up where they're all from. I know the Blaney's Ryan Blaney's a third generation driver. His grandfather, and then his dad, and of course him. His dad raced in the Cup Series, NASCAR Cup Series. Ryan, of course, races in the Cup Series. I'm pretty sure his grandfather was in the smaller cars, like the little late models and stuff like that. But I know that there is a racetrack, and I'll have to look up the exact name of it, out near the Pennsylvania border that Ryan Blaney bought. So he actually owns a racetrack up there. And for those who know who Tony Stewart is, one of the most popular drivers back when he was racing NASCAR series, he actually owns the best dirt track in America. And it's in Eldora. It's called Eldora Speedway, just outside of Daytonish area over there. Really, really, really nice racetrack. Really fun too. Good speeds there. So back up here, we'll go up to the top of my questions here. We had a question from another one of our buddies, Robert with WTP for Life. Also with, WT, he's another of the WT sports dudes. Which FYI, you'll see all them scrolling across the bottom before I answer his question. You'll see Robert with WTP for Life, like I mentioned. You got City League TV with T1. You can find him on YouTube and Facebook. You've got Parlay Poe with the Blitzburg podcast. You've got Postgame with the Postgame 86 podcast. You got FanDuel Zaya with the FanDuel Zay podcast. And I'm SEC Sean. I kind of cover a lot of NASCARs, kind of cover, get into college football. I'll get into hockey. I'll get into whatever y'all want to talk about. So, feel free to jump in, like, subscribe, all the channels scrolling across the bottom. Go check them out. There's good content on every one of them. But back to our question here. What is top speed ever recorded? Top speed, this is NASCAR talking. We're not talking about Indy cars and Formula One, because they can hit more speeds, of course, than NASCAR. But highest speed ever for NASCAR was 212.8 miles an hour. That was done 1987, I think. Yeah. And that was during qualifying for a race at the Talladega Super Speedway down in Alabama. Yeah, 212 miles an hour. Just, you can't even imagine that. Those cars are insane. We got another question coming up from Rob, but we're going to skip the next question. We're going to save the question for the end, and that's the question of the day. But we'll save it for the last of the show, because I'm sure everybody in here has asked this question once or twice. Is there a Racing Hall of Fame? Yes, there is. The NASCAR Hall of Fame is in Charlotte, North Carolina. As somebody who has been to every Hall of Fame there is, whether it's, basketball, baseball, hockey, football, whatever, I've been to them all. The NASCAR Hall of Fame is by far the most interactive and fun one I've ever been to. It's not even close. It's so interactive. I think you can get in. I think it cost, for me and my wife, I think it was like $100, but that was like the full package, the everything, the little, you could do everything you wanted. Simulators, you can practice driving a race car. If you're good enough at it, they'll let you get in a race car and drive it on a computer, like iRacing. There is tons of things to do at the Hall of Fame in Charlotte. Like I said, it's probably by far my most favorite Hall of Fame. Got a question from another gentleman named Doug. He sent this to me via text. He's a front buddy of mine out of Texas. Says, what is the average temperature in a car? And, obviously it's warm, but it normally, based on your temperature outside, it's about 120 to 140 degrees out inside the car. You can just imagine, how hot that is. And then you go into, in extreme cases, like they race sometimes in Texas in July, and the car inside temperature could be 160, 170 degrees. How do they combat that? People say a lot of drivers have cool suits, and all it is a shirt that plugs in, and it blows cool air. The air circulates through a water in your shirt. The problem is the technology on those hasn't been really mastered yet. And there are times where those cool shirts go out, and these guys wind up like almost have to unplug it and turn it off, because it's like boiling water on their skin. So that's the temperature. You get pretty warm. Let's see. Hello, Joan, or Jonky3288. I'll butcher everybody's name in the chat, I promise. But I'll do my best to acknowledge everybody. Another question that gets asked a lot: what strength and conditioning do drivers do? Driving a car is one thing. These guys are in these cars for 3.5, 4 hours normally. So it's a lot. They do a lot of cardio. I've seen videos of this. I haven't seen this. I'm hoping they bring this to the Hall of Fame I mentioned earlier. But there is a screen, just a square, big square, and a driver just stands there with his hands and lights flash, and they just try to slap him as fast as they. It's insane. If you can find videos to watch it, it is crazy how fast these guys can do this. Tons of strength, lifting weights, flexibility is big. I mean, you've got to realize these guys are going into corners in cars, and in some of these bankings, their bodies are compressing 3 inches. And then they come out and their body comes back up, and then it goes back for 500 laps. And there's 4 corners. So 2,000 corners on a 500 lap race doing that to your body. So a lot of cardio, a lot of strength conditioning, a lot of hand-eye coordination. So that's kind of what most drivers would do. This is a pretty interesting one. This one's a little bit the most dangerous track. As far as there's a couple different ways to look at this. The most dangerous track is probably Daytona. If I'm not mistaken, probably should have done some more research on this, but I didn't. I think there's been 8 fatalities at Daytona. But just due to the sheer speeds of the cars. Nowadays, the cars are a lot safer than what they were back then also. But NASCAR, the Daytona is pretty dangerous. You can go look up if you've got time or you got the want to, go into YouTube and just type in worst NASCAR crashes. You'll see Daytona. You'll see some crashes that'll make you freak out. You'll see Michigan's had some bad ones because the speeds at Michigan and Speedway are so insane. Of course, Talladega and others, most of your big super speedways. Some people claim Bristol, Tennessee, which is a little short track race, half-mile track. They consider that one pretty dangerous, but to me, it's not. It's just people list it because there's normally so many wrecks there that they consider it dangerous, but it's really not one of them. Most of your dangerous tracks are your high-speed tracks. Daytona, Talladega, Michigan, Texas, Charlotte, because wrecks at those places can nowadays not necessarily, there's always the risk of fatality, but it's not even really that. It's more of injury. Guys injure their backs. At Michigan race this year, Alex Bowman hit the wall on the backstretch in Michigan, and he was out for 2-3 weeks, I think, with a back that was messed up. Somebody hit the wall. I want to say it was Talladega in the lower series, in the Xfinity series, and he was out for 3-4 weeks. So that's why I consider those some of the most dangerous tracks. We will be getting into more of a track discussion probably on the next episode of this, where I'll break down more of the different, more in depth on the styles of tracks. I know I have a question in here. Somebody asked about what are the differences in the tracks, and I'll get into that, but we're also going to go into more of the depth of the tracks and the different dimensions and different styles at a later episode. Do pit crews change teams? Yes, most definitely they do. Not necessarily the whole pit crew, but especially like when NASCAR finishes their regular season and starts the playoffs. If I'm the guy in chain for jacking up the car, first we're going to have a really slow pit stop. But if I'm the one in charge of jacking up the car and I'm the best one out of our whole organization, which may have 2 cars, 3 cars, 4 cars, but we're not in the playoffs, but our teammate is, I may move to that team to increase the speed of their pit stop. So yeah, they change them a lot. And sometimes teams that are just struggling at the back of the pack and they have 2 cars, sometimes they'll swap whole crews just to see if something clicks. It's kind of the old adage you hear about in like football or baseball. They just need a fresh start. It's kind of the same thing. So yeah, they do change teams, but a lot of times it's just one person here, one person there. You may even see the guy who sits on top of the pit box, the crew chief, and the team's not doing well. So maybe those two flip and he's now this guy. So yeah, people move around a lot, but they normally only move around within an organization. They don't normally, you're not going to go from Roger Penske Racing to Hendrick Racing in the middle of the season. Not saying it couldn't happen, just never has yet that I know of. So not in the recent history of NASCAR. Let's see what else we got down here. Another question down there at the bottom. That's a really good question too, Rob. I'll get to that one in just a second. Another question: what states claim NASCAR country? There's a bunch of them. I mean, it used to be mostly the South and the Southeast, but NASCAR's gotten a lot more global. Global too. We raced in Mexico City last year. But I mean, there's NASCAR Brazil, there's NASCAR Europe, there's NASCAR Germany. There's tons, and I know Europe and Germany are the same, but there's NASCAR series all over. But as far as in the United States, I mean, it's California, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Texas, Michigan, Kansas. I mean, it's nationwide, so it's not as much what states really claim it anymore. It's more or less of just where they go. And instead of just being so centered in the South, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Charlotte, or North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, instead of just being more centric in those areas, it's just kind of spread out a little more now. Where do the most and best drivers come from? Back in the day, it used to be the South and the Southeast. You had the Alabama gang, which was based out of Alabama, which was the Allison buddy boys, Bobby and Davey Allison, and a couple other guys in there. But now you're getting a lot of drivers coming out of California. You see them come out of Michigan, Connecticut. You see them from all over, and it's really more or less where you live, and is there smaller tracks to keep progressing up the ranks. Then if you're good enough, somebody's going to see you. And once they see you, you'll get a ride in the NASCAR series, a shot. So it's really, there's no real set area anymore. We got drivers in the Cup Series now from Mexico. We got a driver up here from New Zealand. There's been drivers from Europe over here in the series. So just wherever you can find a good driver, you get him. But I'd still say the most and the best come out of still that whole southeast kind of corridor. Was Days of Thunder an accurate depiction of NASCAR? Yeah, very much so. For its time, it wouldn't be really for now. Little weird thing about that movie is that movie was actually filmed during races. There was no editing and cutting and pasting. Like Tom Cruise and them were driving on the track with the other cars. But the other cars were told, hey, go high, they're going to stay low. So a lot of that was filmed actually during races, which is not something you'd see nowadays. But yeah, it was pretty accurate. I mean, of course, it's some Hollywood too. But the crash you saw, the main crash in that movie, that stuff's accurate. The fighting is accurate. The cheating the system a little bit, if you want to go that far, was accurate. So yeah, it's probably the most accurate NASCAR movie there is. I know people will say Talladega Nights. Talladega Nights made a farce of NASCAR. But Days of Thunder was actually a really close. It's been the closest I've seen. Somebody, again, here we go with what's the difference? Oval speedways and road courses. Well, typically, I mean, your oval is your oval. Just used to call it the cookie cutter, 1.5 miles, just oval. Some have what they call like a tri-oval in them. Some are just straight ovals. Some are egg shaped. Some are flat. Some look like a paper clip. Some look like there's a triangle. Um, there's so many different styles. Some are concrete. Some are asphalt. Super speedways, your oval courses. I mean, all of them pretty much ovals, but super speedways and ovals differ based in your size. I mean, like Michigan Speed is a super speedway. It's considered a speedway, but it's really a super speedway. It's a 2 mile track. Daytona is 2.5 miles. Talladega is 2.67 miles. Pocono, I want to say, is like 3 point maybe 2 or something miles. That's the triangle called the Tricky Triangle. And then of course road courses are ovals and speedways. You're turning left. Road courses, you're turning left and right. We have street courses. We raced in downtown Chicago last year. They're going to race on a naval base out in San Diego this year. So they have street courses like, NASCAR's running down the streets of, pick your capital city or a major city near where you live: Columbus, Ohio, Houston, Texas. They barricade off streets and they turn it into a NASCAR track, and people are just, you got these cars screaming down the roads people drive on every day. Those are some of the differences in them. Speedways, super speedways are just known for speed and high banking and just very, 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 what you would say, minimal braking. But we'll get into that. Like I said, that's going to be the next part of this beginner series, is getting into the different styles of tracks. This question I hate: is NASCAR going to adapt electric or hybrid technology? They are already. They're just not racing it in the big Cup series. It's just kind of a prototype. There's a video out there of the prototype that they built. It's a pretty nice little car, but I'm an old school NASCAR guy. I like the big push rod V8, the sound of it, the rumble of that engine when it comes by you. And there's videos posted to my page where you can hear it. It's just the sound of a big, huge 550 horsepower V8 engine, all souped up, is just insane. That, to me, there's just not a better sound. So I'm sure eventually they're going to adapt it. I don't see it happening anytime soon. I don't. You're not looking at like the next 2 to 3 years. If that happens, you might be looking 10 to 15 years. And I'm not even sure then that it's going to, it may be a whole new series. It could be the NASCAR electric series. I know there's talk of hydrogen technology to fuel the cars. So there's numerous different things out there. I just don't think it's going to go to that anytime soon. Let's see. What traditions make NASCAR? Well, NASCAR is the first tradition. The reason NASCAR started was moonshine, running from the cops. That's why NASCAR started. In fact, one of my favorite shirts I wear, I got from the Hall of Fame, and it straight up says it was only illegal if you got caught. So that's one of them. But you go into, there's just a lot of different things. There's not really like one set tradition, but some of them I'll get you that people always talk, that I've talked to. We always talk about some of the stuff is when the Cup Series comes hauling in on for a weekend, and you sit there watching all these, multi-million-dollar semis roll by with their gorgeous paint schemes and all this, and all their lights on at night. It's pretty cool to watch. And then watching them park. I know that sounds stupid, but watching 40 semis park about 6 inches away from each other is just pretty crazy. Those drivers are the best of the best for the semi drivers. Daytona is the ultimate tradition. I tell anybody, if you ever have a chance to go to Daytona for what used to be called Speed Weeks, it's like 2 weeks, but it's really a Speed Week now. But it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it's racing all day, and it is pretty crazy. Some of the other traditions are The Coke 600. NASCAR is huge with the military, by the way. Do a lot with folds of honor, military appreciation, all that kind of stuff. The Coke 600 is the big one. It's on Memorial Day weekend. That's the biggest racing weekend in the world. F1 races at Monaco. Indy does the Indy 500. And then at night, NASCAR does the Coke 600. And yeah, it's, 600 miles they race. And that track is 1.5 miles. So it's 400 laps. And they do 4 stage breaks. And in between, I think the second and third stage break, they do this huge military thing. And all the cars have somebody who, a military member who paid the ultimate sacrifice on top of the car. It's one of the most intense things. Some of the other traditions are mostly a lot of the trophies. Like you win at Martinsville, you get a grandfather clock. Pretty cool little trophy. Really good hot dog there too. You win at, where is it? I want to say it's New Hampshire. Yeah, Loudon, New Hampshire. You get a huge lobster. I don't know, just a big lobster you hold up. It's weird. The night race at Bristol is just a huge tradition that I'll tell everybody, if you're going to go to one NASCAR race to try to get into NASCAR, make your way to the night race at Bristol, the Bass Pro Shops 500. Go to that race at night. Seeing these cars under the lights in a sunk down bowl. I would tell you that would be the first racetrack I would go to if you want to know what NASCAR is all about. Those are some of the traditions. Let's see. We already got that question about the drivers. Do they have substitute drivers when somebody gets hurt? In the middle of the race, not really. But if you get hurt and you're going to be out for an extended period, yes, somebody can. There are instances where, let's say, a driver maybe has the flu and he doesn't feel the best, but he has to. I'll have to get into this later with the rules, but you have to be considered eligible for the playoffs. You have to start every race. You don't have to finish the race, but you have to start the race. So if I've got the flu and I know I can't drive 500 laps, all I have to do is get in my car, make a lap, pull into the pit, get out, the other driver gets in, and then he goes and drives. But I'd get the points for the race because I was the one who started the race. Now, if I injure myself and I can't get in the car at all the next time we race, then I have to then go to NASCAR and ask for a medical waiver to be eligible for the playoffs if I qualify for them. And they normally, if it's an injury like that, NASCAR's not that bad. Yes, you get the waiver. Now, if you do something stupid and get yourself suspended by purposely wrecking somebody or doing something else that they deem and you get suspended, then you don't get a waiver and you don't go to the playoffs. There's lots of different little rules about that, and there's more into it, and that'll be another topic we get into later in the year. But yeah, there are substitute drivers. There's a lot of money in that sport, and if that car's not making laps, that sponsor's not happy, and that's the last person you want to make mad is the guy putting all the money and put his logo on the front of that car. So lots of good questions tonight. Hopefully it shed a little bit more light on some of the different topics. Like I said, we've got, so much going on right now. We're still waiting to hear. We should know December 1st on the lawsuit that's being filed between the two race teams against NASCAR. Once that comes out and I get more knowledge on that, I'm going to break that down to see what that's going to do for the upcoming season. We're almost creeping to December. So, we're already 2 months away from the start of the next racing season. I know that seems insane. These guys, that's the longest sport there is, 36 weeks and then like 3 months off. And they're out there, they're not off. They're in the race shop building, testing, taking cars out on tracks and running them, trying to try new setups and things, tire testing. They're doing all kinds of, there's no off time. So those are just some of the different topics, and I appreciate all the questions and, you know, everybody tuning in tonight. But if you, like I said at the beginning, if you want to find a driver, go on YouTube, and, you know, you can even go to NASCAR.com and look up the drivers, and then go on YouTube and base it on that driver. You can look at their highlights and then say, oh, well, this guy looks good. I'm going to go check out his highlights. You can go on YouTube. You can go to NASCAR.com and look up previous races. Type in the title of the race and the year of the race into the search bar on YouTube. Watch the race. You can go to NASCARclassics.com. Thousands, hundreds of races, if not thousands. Could be thousands. I'm talking races from back in the early days of NASCAR that they, you know, 60s, 70s are on there. It might even be some older than that now. You know, and it's not a sport that you have to have a favorite. It's not like a football, basketball, baseball that you have to have a favorite. You can just root for anybody that drives a Chevrolet, anybody that drives a Toyota, anybody that drives a Ford. You can just be, I'm a Ford guy, I'm a Chevy guy. So you can be whatever you want and just root for the whole thing. You might find a team you like. Maybe you like Roger Penske, and so you're going to follow the Penske cars. Just whatever. Maybe you like shopping at Menards, so you're going to follow the Menards car. Maybe you like shopping at Napa Auto Parts, so you're going to follow the number 9 Napa car. You know, there's so many things. Maybe you like McDonald's, so you're going to follow Bubba Wallace because he got McDonald's as a sponsor. There's no right or wrong answer. And the difference is, it's not like other sporting events where you go to them, you got Yankees and Red Sox next to each other, or Cowboys and Giants, or Cowboys and, or anybody with the Cowboys, whatever, getting mad at each other. No, these guys are I'm in my stuff that I wear for my driver, and there's a guy over here and a driver I don't really like. I don't yell at him and talk mess to him. We talk and joke. We just have a good time. Ain't no reason to get mad. I mean, it's a NASCAR race is like a family reunion, and if you've been to a family reunion, you know sometimes those are pretty fun to just stand back in the corner and watch. And same thing with NASCAR. But it is, everybody gets along. I've never seen an issue. I've never seen a fight at a race between people. None of that stuff. It's just family, Southern hospitality. That's exactly what you get at a NASCAR race. Well, let's see. We got another question popping in. I like this. Can sponsors like Pepsi sponsor more than one team if they are from different models like Ford or Chevy? Yeah, I mean, there are some, but not during the same race. Like, I'll go back a couple of years when my favorite driver before he retired, every now and then he had Mobil 1 on his car. The number 4 car, Mobil 1, Kevin Harvick. That was my driver. But 3 races later, the Mobil 1 logo would be on Christopher Bell's Toyota. So yeah, I mean, you're not going to, and you could see it during even the same race. I don't know that I've really seen it much, but I guess it could. I mean, but normally it's one per race. But yeah, they can most definitely sponsor whatever. No, if I wanted to take my company and sponsor a Ford, a Chevy, and a Toyota, I promise you, the owners of that race team are not going to say no to my money coming to be put on their car. Even if I say I want to do them all for the Daytona 500, and let's say it was $10 million a piece, and I put $30 million 10 in each of those manufacturers' pockets and said, I want that car, and that car, they're not going to say no. Yep, you can have all of them out there. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've even seen it last year. I'd have to go back and relook, but I think I've seen it a couple times where we had a couple of cars painted the same color from different manufacturers because of the sponsor. But normally it's one sponsor per race a lot of times. But nobody's going to turn down money. I promise you that much. The cost to run one of these teams we went through last week, and you heard the cost of some of that, and you can imagine. Yeah, so really good questions tonight. Like to see all the people moving up and down the chat. Hopefully some of y'all piqued your interest and y'all will pop back in on another episode. Go back and watch the replay of this one if you had to cut out early. Don't do this for anything but just the fun, the love of the sport. Trying to reach out and touch as many people as I can that may not know anything about it that may be interested. That's a crazy question. What's my favorite thing to eat at a race? Well, I mentioned it earlier, but Martinsville, I have not actually been to Martinsville yet, but everybody that I've talked to says the Martinsville hot dog is a must-have. Don't know why. But they say you got to have a Martinsville hot dog. There's the concession food. I mean, nachos, cheeseburgers. Every racetrack has a different variety of food. And it's just a matter of, what do you want? And I mean, like Daytona may have a special hamburger out that week. And then the next week in Atlanta, it could be something. And then you go to Texas and maybe it's, something brisket or something, a brisket sandwich or something. So every track has their own little staple on things. You go up into New England and clam chowders and crab cakes and things like that. So yeah, I mean, but me, I'm more of a traditional guy. I like my nachos, my hot dogs, my pretzels, some cold beer, just typical what it is. But like I said, the good thing about it is you don't have to eat at the track. Most tracks you can take your own food and drinks in. So, you may not like hot dogs and, burgers from a concession stand or chicken tenders or whatever. So maybe you prefer to pack, a couple of sandwiches, a couple of cans of Coke, a couple of cans of beer, a couple of bottles of water, whatever. Most tracks you can take your own cooler in. It has to be a certain size, soft-sided, no hard-sided coolers, but you check it when you go through and good to go. Beer, whatever, don't matter. Go. So that's the cool thing about it to me. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that, like I said, hopefully, people get interested and ask questions and, get more people in looking at this, or, maybe I piqued somebody's interest tonight. Sorry about that. Dropped my pen. Maybe I piqued somebody's interest tonight and now they're going to look at going and trying to figure out where's the closest racetrack to them. NASCAR.com schedule. Stay tuned also. At the beginning of the year, we're going to start walking through the NASCAR app on how to get your free tickets and stuff too. So all of y'all that may want to go to a race, there's probably a race a couple hours away from where you live. Most of the people are a couple hours away from a track that they can get to. 6, 7, 8 hours. But if you're on the East Coast, you're within tons of tracks. Even if you're out on the West Coast, you've got San Diego, Phoenix, Las Vegas. You got Sonoma up in California, the road course. New York, you got Watkins Glen up in the upper state, New York. Michigan, of course, for me right now, based in Ohio. Michigan's 2.5 hours away from us. Brooklyn, Michigan. Indianapolis is 3 hours away. I can be in Bristol, Tennessee in 6 hours from here. I can be in Martinsville, Virginia in 8 hours from here. I mean, there's so many different tracks you can get to. And like I said, you get free tickets. All you got to do is pay for your travel and your hotel and your food and stuff. But other than that, I mean, free tickets to an event, hard to beat. So that's just kind of what it is. We're going to get real in depth with that app after the first of the year. Reason I'm waiting until the first of the year is because you do earn points throughout this app throughout the year, but they expire on 12/31. So I don't want to get a bunch of people registered right now, and then you have to use all those points and then start back over, because you get bonus points for setting up your profile and all that stuff. And I'd rather y'all get them so it'll lead into the whole next year. And if you don't go to a race, I'm not going to make a race next year. I have some other plans coming up. So I'm going to actually skip out on a race next year, but I'm going to take all my points this year, about 12,000. I'm going to dump them into a sweepstakes, like free Sunoco gas for a year. I'll probably put them into, maybe I'll put some of them into like a VIP drawing for a race. And that way there, if I do go, it's free, free hotel, free airfare, free everything. So there's lots of different things, merchandise, things like that. So nothing too crazy, but like I said, we'll go into that. Doug just texted me personally. He didn't put this on the screen. What is the closest NASCAR track to Houston? There's two. Austin, and being that you're like that college from over there. Austin has a road course, COTA, Circuit of the Americas. I wouldn't suggest going to a road course. You're going to see the cars. I mean, if you get into NASCAR really in depth and you want to go, that's fine. But for one of your first races, don't do that. You will only see the cars every few minutes. You don't want to do that. Texas Motor Speedway up in Fort Worth would be one. 5-6 hours away from there. Trying to think what else is from Houston. Really from Houston, then you start having to go over into like the Alabamas, Talladega, which Talladega would be an amazing track. If you've got time, Bristol, Tennessee, I'm telling you, Bristol, Tennessee is the ultimate racetrack, or Atlanta, Georgia. Those are two of the best racetracks there are. Daytona, Talladega are just sheer, you don't know what's going to happen. 190 miles an hour, 36 cars nose to tail. One mistake, 27 cars get wrecked. Atlanta, kind of the same way, just not quite the speeds. It's a smaller track. Bristol's just 36 cars on a half-mile track doing 13-second laps. Passing left and right, bumping left and right, moving people out. You got to get out of my way. I got to go. And yeah, that's allowed in NASCAR, not like these other cars. You bump them. I got to go. Hit them, move on, go, bye. Not that it's encouraged, but it's not frowned upon either. So those are some tracks to from Houston, Texas, where you're located, Doug. Heck, Kansas, Kansas City, St. Louis. It's worth the drive. It's worth it, I promise you. The Texas Motor Speedway up there in Fort Worth, pretty good race. Was terrible for a couple of years. The racetrack's starting to come back. They've repaved it, and it's starting to get some wear to it, so it's getting a little better now. Yeah, you could take her to Texas and have a good time. But like I said, I wouldn't go to the Austin race, not for one of your first races. To me, it's just not worth it. Ladies, gentlemen, kids, everybody, all ages, welcome to come back. We'll be here. Probably won't go next week due to Thanksgiving. Hope everybody that is watching has a good Thanksgiving, by the way. Probably be back sometime in December to break down some more. We'll probably go into the tracks next. Different styles of tracks and things like that. So we'll probably do that sometime in December. Like I said, notice all the channels at the bottom. WTP Sports Dudes, we go live all the time. We'll be on tomorrow morning, Saturday at 8, Sunday at 9. We'll be on Tuesday at 7:45. This is all Eastern time, by the way. We'll be live Thursday at 7:45. I normally drop in on Friday, but like I said, Thanksgiving probably won't. Next week you may miss us. We may be out for Thanksgiving and stuff, but go look at all the content out there with all these guys' channels. There's a lot of content out there, and if you enjoy what you hear, or even if you don't, just hit the subscribe, like button. Doesn't cost anything. Doesn't sign you up for anything. Doesn't do anything. Just helps us, makes us look a little better. Other than that, everybody have a good evening, and we'll get back into it next time.